What's up, guys? Faruqi Bros here, back with another video. And today for you guys, we're covering what is literally the biggest weekend since the pandemic started, and that's the Barbenheimer weekend. We're finally in it, and these two movies hit audiences like a juggernaut because both are performing absolutely crazy at the box office. Barbie's doing, of course, the best, performing like I think in some places Avengers Endgame level. If it continues with the legs that it has, expect that movie to make $1 billion. And then for a rated R 3-hour biopic for a historical figure that no one really liked, that movie's also doing insane numbers. People are pulling up to Oppenheimer in droves, especially at the premium levels, all the Dolby screens, all the IMAX screens. It's dominating. So rarely have we seen two movies like these come out the same weekend, appeal to completely different audiences, but capture the zeitgeist in a way that people are pulling up for both. There's people wearing the half Barbie, half Oppenheimer t-shirts, and every screening I've been to for Oppenheimer or Barbie, press screening or general audience, people are decked out, people are dressing up, people are having fun. Movies actually feel like events now. People are showing up in a way that I've not seen this much excitement, and I'll bring it up again. It feels like the excitement that people had with Endgame, where people are just showing up and so excited. So as you know, three connoisseurs of films like us, it's only good. Like there's nothing bad about this weekend with great movies getting great box offices, and the fact that cinema's back. And before we get into our topics, I do want to point out that it is incredibly refreshing that non-superhero movies are doing this well, because we're so used to like, and this not coming from people who love superhero movies. We started as comic book debaters, some of you guys might know. So we love the genre, but we know there's been the law of diminishing returns has been an effect for superhero movies, and they've been getting kind of worse and worse unless you have an auteur director. So it's absolutely great that Barbie and Oppenheimer are doing great numbers. So let's get right into it. This is going to be a full spoiler talk, but it has been a couple of days since the movie released, so hopefully you guys have seen it. If not, definitely watch it. We definitely encourage you to support cinemas. So let's get right into it. And I want to start with Oppenheimer because we are all big fans of Christopher Nolan, and I want to talk about how this movie compares to Nolan's own repertoire and resume, and if it is the best movie of 2023 so far. So I'm not going to go first. I'm going to let Zion go first, but I will say you can catch my written review on Rotten Tomatoes and Cinema Debate. So Zion, I want you to kick us off first. What did you think of Oppenheimer? Things that stood out to you, best performances, and is it the best movie of 2023 for you so far?
I've gotten a chance to see it twice now, once in like a regular format and once in luckily 7mm IMAX, which is, like you said, in terms of the theatrical experience, these tickets are sold out for like weeks and weeks. Doesn't matter if it's a 10:30 a.m. showing or 10:30 p.m. showing, they are booked out. And it really is a very great sign for cinema and theaters and movies in general that one of the other stats also came out that adds into that is that this was like one of the opening weekends where the box office threshold was so high, and it's the first time in history it's been the high where there wasn't a Star Wars or a Marvel movie or something attached that weekend. So it really is a very great sign that we're having these seemingly completely different movies both dominate. And I think Oppenheimer really pushes that as well. As a film, it is just incredible from the ground up. I think you really see Nolan put in all his effort and really just made it such an incredible, like, holistic, almost masterpiece, really, you can call it, where you're just following this one person and just what he created and just the rippling effect basically of his own life and just the idea of what it then did to the world essentially. I thought it was incredible. I do think it is the best film of the year so far, and the competition is pretty high. There's a lot of still good films to come out, like Dune, Kills the Flower Moon, things of that nature, but I don't think anything can reach this level of craft. Maybe people are more interested story-wise with Dune or something like that, but I think just the way this was crafted, the way it was made, shot in complete IMAX, made of seen in 70mm IMAX, I think it's just top level and is one of the best made films of this decade at least, and the best movie of this year. I really had no issues with it at all. I enjoyed it both times, and I think he's been snubbed a lot in the last couple of years, but in his last couple of movies. But I think for this one, Christopher Nolan definitely deserves the Best Director Oscar.
Yeah, it's going to be tough competition because Expect Wes Anderson to get nominated for Asteroid City. Expect Greta Gerwig to get nominated for Barbie. There's going to be a lot of coming, and then expect Martin Scorsese to have a say in the matter when it comes to Killers of the Flower Moon. So there's a lot of competition, like you said. But we'll see how it goes. And Samir, I want to go to you next. I mean, Oppenheimer. We've all, none of us doubt Nolan, so we all thought it'd be good. But this is, there were some people who were saying that, with Dunkirk and this, like he's staying in the World War I and II like era for a few movies now. But do you think it was worth it to take the risk that he did to go with a 3-hour biopic?
I mean, even I went into the movie thinking that it would be kind of boring-ish. Even though it's Nolan, I had a little bit of doubt just because of the story aspect, the World War aspect. I found kind of boring overall. But when I was watching the movie, just because of Nolan's artistic vision overall, it really made it great. And the cinematography, the music, the sound design especially, everything made it incredible. And of course, it was topped off by incredible performances by the whole cast, especially Cillian Murphy, RDJ, and Emily Blunt. And I think they're all shoo-ins for some category of the Oscars. I think Oppenheimer could even sweep. But up to this point of the year, I think it's the best movie, and I'm not sure if anything will top it.
I mean, you mentioned the cast, and I want to kind of circle back. I'm going to go to myself first and give my thoughts on the movie, and then get to cast, because I was pretty floored with this movie. I think despite this not being maybe as experimental as Interstellar or as action-packed as his Dark Knight trilogy, I feel like this was probably Nolan pushing himself to the absolute limit. And you can't, the layman, as they say, won't see the kind of nuance that he put into this movie. He was going his absolute hardest. Like, he was pushing the boundaries of how to do this, number one, without CGI. They claim 0 CGI was used in this movie, which means even the sequences where Oppenheimer is imagining, seeing the music, as they say, of physics, or when the actual Trinity test was happening, that was all done in-house. They use, I think they described, I don't have the full technicalities, but they use a small scale explosion, and they obviously magnified it. And when you're shooting with an IMAX camera, you're going to get those intricate details. So it did feel very lifelike. And then the sound design was absolutely crazy. And you pair sound design with Ludwig Göransson's score, and you're cooking, because that was, and I feel like one of the most underrated things about Hans Zimmer choosing Denis Villeneuve and doing the Dune duology so far is that this is the second time in a row that Nolan worked with Ludwig on Tenet and on Oppenheimer, and it's paid off in spades. Like, obviously there's some homages where I hear some of Nolan's basic scores that he does all the time, so there's some Hans Zimmer homages there, but I just think Ludwig went crazy with it. I think what they were trying to do was absolutely experimental, but paid off in spades. And there's been a lot of controversy about how you're not showing all the war and stuff like that. But I think that was absolutely brilliant, because it's so hyper focused. You're literally only seeing two people's perspectives. When it's in color, everything is in Oppenheimer's perspective, and when it's in black and white, it's in Louis Strauss's perspective. And guess what? This is more harrowing than most people think. But the people pushing the buttons and making the decisions that lead to mass casualties, there are these kind of people who don't see war. They're the people who just stay in the back. I think one of the scariest lines of the movie was literally when they're like, "No, we can't bomb Kyoto because my wife and I honeymooned there." I'm like, that shows how little life means to these people. And you're watching a movie of all bad guys, So it's it's something to think about when it comes to media literacy. I tweeted about media literacy was kind of poor with this movie when it comes to how people are reacting to it. But overall, I think the audience is smart enough to understand. But when it comes to great performances, I agree with Samir. A lot of shoo-ins, I think, for Oscar categories. The biggest surprise, though, is Robert Downey Jr. I think if you're used to him as Iron Man, then you're going to come out really surprised that he had this many chops. Yeah, he was amazing in Zodiac, but since Zodiac, you can make a case that he hasn't really flexed these muscles. And the fact that he flexed them in this role, and Nolan pushed him. I saw a couple of great interviews where he said that Christopher Nolan told RDJ to forget about everything you've done before. This is something brand new. And I think of all the people, I think he has the most chance to win Best Supporting Actor. I think he's just going to take that. But of course, you never know. Ryan Gosling, who we're going to discuss in a minute, has a chance as well. But yeah, on casting, people that stood out to you. I know one of the surprises was Rami Malek also.
That's true. He was surprised because he was initially like, as in terms of like screen time, he's actually not in the film that long, but the moments that he shows up at the end is like, yeah, is a very significant it's a very significant part of the story. So that was very great to see. But like you said, I think obviously Cillian Murphy, he just absolutely incredible performance. I think he has such a great way of just his facial expression and his eyes. He can convey so much like emotion that he just like he doesn't have to say a word and he's already stealing the show. So I thought that was obviously incredible. And like I said, RDJ, complete stand-up performance. I did not expect it to be that great going in, but he really did take this role and he like consumed it. And like now it makes sense when he was like, "This is the best thing I've ever done." And like work with Nolan is just different because you see it pays dividends when he gives a performance like this, where yeah, you know, he put his all into it and he really like embraced this person, Admiral Strauss, in real life and kind of just conveyed him through his own performance. And he really was a standout in this film. I did not expect to come out thinking that, yeah, he was so incredible. But him and RDJ, I think they really stole the show. Him and Cillian Murphy.
Yeah, another quote from RDJ in one of his interviews was that he genuinely believed that Strauss was right. Like, he's not sure if, like, he actually believed in the conflict that, hey, what Strauss was doing actually made sense in the big scheme of things. So it's interesting when you fully dive into a character, the kind of fruits that come out of that labor. Favorite scene in the movie? Samir, any favorite scene? I mean, this is a lot of people's favorite, obviously. When he gives that speech, it's absolutely almost like a horror movie. But is there one scene to you that was like, yeah, this is it, they cooked?
Favorite scene? Maybe like the 2 seconds where he's putting on the hat. He's like taking
he's suiting up, putting on his utility belt.
Yeah, you see the suit up scene.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. Yeah,
but it would probably be the Trinity test.
Yeah. The music buildup was crazy there. The tension, I was like, yo. Like, as the countdown was going on, I was like, goosebumps were pulling up. Like, I was like, this is crazy. It's crazy. Like,
I was ready for the explosion sound, but it was silent, and then it hits you, like, later on.
I like that, yeah. So, again, great performances all around. I think a lot of, you mentioned all the names, Cillian Murphy. Not enough good to be said about him. This is the first time that he's actually leading a Nolan movie. He's been a lot of, like, small roles in Nolan movies, including the main villain at one point, but not at this level. So he deserves a Best Actor nomination. We'll see if he wins it or not. Emily Blunt deserves Best Supporting Actress nomination. I think she did a great job, especially that one scene where she finally, fights back. She felt, she's a very interesting, nuanced character. And then Florence Pugh was great. All the little people were great. Like forgot the name of the actor who plays the lawyer, but I think he did a great job as well. Especially that one scene where they're like really arguing, him and Oppenheimer. I was like, this is crazy. And then Gary Oldman, he had a nice little cameo as Truman. I think what he did in 2 minutes of screen time, like, is really commendable. I'm like, this is really good. Like that shows he's goated. But so many names. And Rami Malek, of course, came out and shined.
And Matt Damon.
Matt Damon also. Feels like nothing was spared. Every single person who joined the movie, they didn't feel like a pointless cameo. They felt like they're all good. Like it all made sense. So. Unless there was a pointless cameo. Samir, is there a pointless cameo?
Most movies. I feel like this time he gave a little bit more, but it was still Matt Damon performance.
Well, maybe. Well, then, so are we all in agreement? 5 stars? I mean, I give this 5 stars running away. I think we're all in agreement there. Zion, Samir, 5, 4.5.
Yeah, 5, definitely.
If Dune 2 doesn't get delayed, do you think by the end of this year we're still going to say Oppenheimer is the best?
Yes.
So you think they won? It's July. It's July right now. You think it's done? Nothing that comes up in the second half of the year is going to make a difference.
I think the only 2 movies that I can think of would be Dune if it doesn't get delayed, and Killers of the Flower Moon maybe. But just because of the whole technical sense of this movie, I feel like Nolan went all out, and I don't think they'll be able to top it. Even with the story aspect, like it is a historical piece, so it did happen. But the way he constructed the story, the way he told the story, I feel like was just a level above what everyone else has.
Yeah, not enough good can be said about it. I think we're all on the same page. Big stuff, and the fact that people are showing up is also great. Like, it's getting a lot of people showing up to the box office. All good stuff. Let's move from there to the other half of Barbenheimer, and that's Barbie itself. And I'll start here because Barbie, I gave this movie a 4.5 out of 5. I was very impressed by it. I mean, Samir was the one who was kind of championing the movie for a few months. He was like, "Yo, I will be seated." Though the second trailer, I think we're all in agreement, wasn't that good. But I'm very pleased to say that after seeing the movie, none of the trailers did justice to what this movie was trying to do. And I think Greta Gerwig is one of the best directors working right now, especially after Lady Bird and Women Talking. But no, Women Talking, not that one, right? Am I getting this wrong? But Lady Bird for sure. And then this is her biggest budget movie. Like they gave her almost like $100 million. Go take care of it. Go be an auteur. I saw some of the other choices they were considering for Barbie that wasn't her, and I'm very happy they didn't go with other choices like Amy Schumer, for example. I think they went with the right choice to build this movie out. And I think Margot Robbie dispelled any notions that she can only be typecasted with the Brooklyn accent, because she pulled up with this movie and did an absolutely fantastic job portraying. I think the cast was all fantastic. I think the breezy hour and 40-minute runtime really did this movie justice. They didn't over-explain things. They didn't feel like they had to get into the why does this happen? What's the Barbie world versus the real world? There's this kind of sense of adventure in the movie where you just go with it. Like I think I like that. It's old school filmmaking. Again, very little use of CGI. A lot of like practical sets. Good comedy. I think a lot of the humor did hit for me. I thought it was funny. I think the messaging was overall good. We knew with the Greta Gerwig movie, you can get a lot of female empowerment, which is all great. But I think here it was handled quite well. Like I don't think even as a man watching it, you're gonna come out feeling like, oh, it was shoved down your throat. I think it was done quite tactfully, and I think it was done with a bit of a nuance, especially with Ken's character. And even a little Snyder cut joke there, which I think was kind of pretty funny, and I didn't see anything wrong with it as someone who was a fan of that movie. So very impressed by it. Choreography was great. Cinematography was great. The original songs were great. I think there's not enough good that can be said about this movie. I would have pretty much given it a 5-star. The only reason I went down by 0.5 is I felt like some of the supporting characters, were not as fleshed out as they could have been. And I think some of their character arcs got glossed over for the bigger picture of Ken and Barbie. But I think overall, this is still one of the best movies of the year. It's in my top 3 right now. I mean, I'm just thinking between this Oppenheimer and Asteroid City. I mean, that's a fairly good top 3 with John Wick 4 peaking on the side. But unless I'm missing another movie, and Spider-Verse as well, of course. So these are all my top 5, and I think by the end of it, I think Barbie will be talking a lot about it at the end of the year as one of the best movies of the year. So I'm very impressed by it. I really liked it. So Zion, what about you? What do you think about Barbie? By the way, this was me and Don showing up to the press screening.
That's true. We were the most odd man out in the screening, but I pretty much agree with everything. I pretty much agree with every point you made. I think it was actually a very incredibly made film. And obviously Greta Gerwig, hats off to her. She really took this, because we could have gone so many ways with this movie, and she really took it in a very great way. And there really were, like, it was surprisingly more deeper than I thought it would have been, or that the trailers give off. Like, there is a sense of like thematically, a sense of like, oh yeah, life and even death and like legacy and like of female empowerment and toxic masculinity and that kind of stuff. And it was handled very tactfully. I agree with like almost all the points you made, because you could have. There's so many topics in this where like you get a tinge of this and a tinge of that thematically, but everything was handled very well, and it wasn't overbearing either. It was still like a fun and good time to have, like the movies where it was light, but there's still also some of that deep undertone within it. The performances were all great. I think obviously Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling, they're the clear standouts, as it makes sense. They were the main Barbie, main Ken. The production design was incredible as well. I think in terms of the award circuit, Greta Gerwig, obviously she's going to get that nomination for the director, best director, and I think this movie might win best production design. I think what they did was really great with the whole Barbie land, and even the way they did the transition and stuff like that. There's like an old school filmmaking type thing where like there's some of the behind the scene stuff circulating right now on Twitter where you see like it was very old school, wasn't CGI, where they're like, yeah, the car is there and the background's moving. I think that all plays into like the fantasy aspect of it. And like you said, I also really much appreciated how they didn't waste time to like explain how the magic behind like Barbie Land existing and what does that mean, and the fact that these people can just cross through and whatnot is like it's just happening in the movie, and you as the audience has to just like the suspension of disbelief has to be there, and you're just consuming it for what it is instead of saying, oh yeah, this scientific thing and this magic thing and this that. It's like just watch the movie for what it is, and I was happy that they did it that way rather than explaining every little thing. I also gave it 4.5 out of 5. Like you, I think the only issue for me was that the whole mom and daughter subplot, it was kind of shallow and it got resolved like very quickly. So I don't know. There was no real reason for that to be there. I guess it's just a way to move the plot along or something, because it could have just as easily been not in there and would have been fine, because it like you have the tension between the mom and daughter, but then suddenly it just gets resolved in Barbie Land and they don't even talk to each other about it. It just happens. So it's like, okay, that's fine. But that was like the only reason I'd knock it. Otherwise, it was pretty great from start to end. I didn't have any major issues. I also thought it was like the comedy is pretty good as well.
Yeah, I like that the movie knew what it wanted to be. You know, it didn't have to be a 3-hour movie. It didn't have to have like multiple layers to it. It just is what it is. And the fact that Mattel is like licensed Barbie out and is okay with it and was okay with the vision, that makes me very excited for the Barney movie, because then that's also Mattel. So if anything, this movie reaffirmed that they can do something with Barney as well. If they can take these classic characters that this company owns and they want to license everything out now. Apparently, I've heard that Mattel wants to like open up the toy box and everything they have, they want to make movies out of, especially after Barbie X-Men, and they want to make a Barbie sequel as well. I don't know if that's going to happen anytime soon, or if Greta's interested in doing that. But expect some big things. Samir, I'm not going to ask you because this is actually a good thing. So I'll look to the next topic, because this shows cinema's going well, because it's absolutely going crazy at the theater. You can't find tickets. So our boy Samir could not find a ticket for Barbie in time. But don't worry, you'll hear from him next stream about his full Barbie thoughts. But I'll move on to like Barbenheimer saving cinema, surprisingly. Like if you pull up a podcast from 2 years ago when we were talking about the pandemic, we were like, oh, streaming's taking over. Theaters are done, unfortunately. Like, are they even going to come back? People want to watch at home. This proved that like this put the nail in the coffin on streaming. Kind of streaming will always be there, but as we see, some of the strike that's going on right now is because of streaming residuals. I think studios jumped into streaming too fast with too much money and not knowing that a lot of people don't care, i.e. Secret Invasion. So like people don't show up anymore. You know, like they don't want to watch this. But if you create event films, if you create things that people care about, people are showing up. They said Monday, record amount of movies being sold. Tuesday, record amount. So like every single day it's coming out, it's projected for the rest of the week to do very well. So quick question for Ziad. I'm going to say, did Barbenheimer save cinema this year? Like, it's hard to recapture lightning in a bottle, but the fact that this week can happen, I think, is great for movies. What do you think?
It is a very great sign. I think this wasn't the first. It definitely started with Top Gun Maverick, where it's like, yeah, this movie hit $1 billion. It's like you almost can't believe it. You would never expected it. So that was the first thing where, yeah, if like you see just the audience isn't dumb. They know just by visually, just by experiencing it, that what's very well made, somebody put their heart into it and really like built their craft and made a very good movie, and what's like run-of-the-mill cash grab, kind of like you're seeing with the multitude of Disney Plus Marvel content that's being thrown out there. It's like audiences don't care because it really is just assembly line stuff at this point. But when you see these other films where, yeah, these people really put everything in it and it is unique and it is different, like Top Gun, like now Barbie and Oppenheimer, it is a very good sign, and it does dispel all the things that, yeah, streaming was going to kill cinema. It's clear now more than ever with This Weekend Now that cinema is like, this is what people want. They like experience this way, but the product has to be good. You have to like really put your all into it, really put your heart into it. It can't feel like you're just throwing it out there as a cash grab, which you've seen a lot with Disney and other major studios lately. But films like these, they really just push cinema up above streaming.
Samir, what do you think? Do you think Barbenheimer, do you think lightning will ever be captured again in the ball, or is this weekend like a one of one where two movies just capture the zeitgeist?
I think it won't in the same way, just because the thing about the Barbenheimer doubleheader thing, people watching both movies on the same day. Like, I thought it was just for the memes, kind of, but people are actually doing it. I walked into Oppenheimer, and I think tons of people were wearing pink. I mean, just in the theater, I think half the people were wearing pink, and I haven't seen people go all out like this for for this kind of movie, just on a regular day for just any movie. So I think this is special, and I'm glad to see that people are actually enjoying it.
Yeah, good for movies, good for cinema. I think two movies that both end up probably going to be a lot of people's top 5 lists, if not top 3 lists, when the all year is said and done. So good stuff. I want to see more of this. I want to see less superhero movies out there. I'm not saying that because we're cinema debate now and we care about that, but I'm saying in general, I'm here for it, and I'm here for the good stuff. And from I think Zion mentioned, from an Oscar perspective, I think Barbie. I think Margot Robbie has a chance to be nominated for Best Actress. I'm not sure she's going to win it, but I think she has a chance to be nominated. And Ryan Gosling has a real chance to be nominated for Best Supporting Actor. So we'll see how that goes. I think both these movies will be well represented in the Oscars. So cool stuff. All right. So listen, we talked about cinema, but sometime a couple of clunkers get in there too. So we're gonna talk about Haunted Mansion briefly. So Haunted Mansion, it's coming out this coming weekend. So unfortunately, it's going to run into what's a juggernaut, which is Barbenheimer, and plus whatever legs that Mission Impossible has left. So Haunted Mansion is coming out. It's based on the ride from Disney World and Disneyland. It's all right cast. It's doing all right. All right, I'll be straightforward with it. Unfortunately, I really didn't like Haunted Mansion, and I hate doing this because I know every movie takes a lot of craft and people try making it, and there's good in every movie. And I heard the production design, they did pretty well with creating an actual mansion. Like, it wasn't too much CGI with the actual mansion itself. The ghosts, of course, are CGI. But my quick non-spoiler review is that, unfortunately, it didn't do it for me. For me, the best way to experience Haunted Mansion is still at the ride. I think this is just like a 2-hour version of a much better ride. Like, the ride in 2 minutes conveys what this movie in 2 hours could not. Now, I'll give it credit. There's some good commentary on grief. It's surprisingly sadder than what I think a movie like this would have been. But unfortunately, even when they try to make jokes, nothing landed for me. I was just sitting silent. Like, it wasn't funny. And I think everyone phoned it in. I think everyone was there for the paycheck. So, like, my boy Lakeith Stanfield, like, you just phoned that one in. He had a couple good scenes, but and there's another kid actor. It's pretty good, but like, it was like just a lot of same. And like, anyone could have written this movie. It's like a very predictable. And then Jared Leto was like the main ghost. I'm like, I don't know. I guess he did okay. He did an okay like version of the guy from the ride. I don't know. It wasn't for me. I give it 2 out of 5. That was me being lenient, but that's my score for it. Zion, what did you think about Haunted Mansion? And remember, don't let your nostalgia for the ride cloud your judgment.
I'm not. It's easy to fall into the trap of, because you're gauging it against. You just came out of Oppenheimer, just came out of Barbie. You're gauging this movie against those which are like at the top of their class. It wasn't horrible, like Shraz like acting like it is. It was just okay. It was an okay, like, good movie for the family to watch together. It doesn't make any sense why it released in summer. It should have released near Halloween. It would have made much more money. But whatever Disney's reason was, they put it out with these juggernauts for some reason. But it was all right. I think it was okay. I think Lakeith Stanfield, he was the only one that was good. Like, I'm a fan of his in any project he's in. Like, I enjoy like his acting and some of the emotional things. Like, he did a good job in his performance. But like you said, it was very shallow movie. But like, what do you expect from a movie like this? It's not going to be some deep deconstruction of the haunted ghost.
Excuse me,
the main ghost.
How can you say this when there's another movie based on a ride called Pirates of the Caribbean 1, which is objectively better in every single way? If you can make a ride, if you make a whole movie like Pirates of the Caribbean out of a 2-minute ride, you could do more with Haunted Mansion.
Because it's so open-ended. And because they created this main character, Jack Sparrow, out of nowhere, and he's the real reason it caught fire like crazy.
Why couldn't they create a character for this movie?
Who are they gonna create? It's not about that, But
what is not about
Pirates as like a whole thing, like, you don't really even see pirate movies. So Disney, like, they had that opportunity and they kind of just took the pirate market for themselves now.
This movie did not capture the magic, the spookiness, the grandiose nature.
It's for kids.
It's not spooky.
I would say the movie
darkness of the ride. You're in the ride, it's so dark. It's like interesting.
Exactly.
Like when the lady's talking, the seance is all interesting. Here, everything the ride does, this movie does objectively well.
I would say this movie is more for kids than the ride. And they had to create some story out of it because obviously in the ride the the main ghost doesn't have the whole plot where it's come to life with 1,000. He just wants the 1,000 goats because there's like that's how many there's room for. So they had to make some shallow story out of nowhere. I don't think it wasn't horrible. Like I wasn't falling asleep like it was for some other movies this year. And I know Strauss' line that he wasn't finding it funny because some of those Owen Wilson lines I saw him laughing. So
I wasn't laughing at his line. I was laughing at his face. Like he's a funny little guy. Like I mean it respectfully. Like he just looks funny when he talks.
It wasn't horrible, but it is by default one of the worst movies of the year, just because it just a lot of stiff competition. But I didn't go in expecting some 5 out of 5 movie. I knew it was going to be just average. It was a little below that for me, but it's just a good movie for the family, family fun movie. I gave it like 2.5. It's in my bottom 3 of the year so far, but I don't think it was the worst movie.
All I'm going to say is that there's 3 ways to watch Haunted Mansion, okay? You can go on the ride. That's number 1. And then the worst is this one, which is like the new movie. But even I'd rather watch the Eddie Murphy version of it.
That's not real.
It's real. What do you mean you don't remember? We were kids that came out. This is the 2000s Haunted Mansion movie. I'm telling you, I saw a clip of it. It looks pretty good. Like I'd rather watch the Eddie Murphy. Look at his face over this one. That's with me. Samir, will you be seated for Haunted Mansion at any point?
I'll be seated for the ride. I mean, I enjoyed the ride.
The ride. Will you catch on Disney Plus when it comes out?
The movie, I doubt it.
and that's the big shame. I mean, I'm not using my Twitter as a microcosm, but like I put that review out there, got like 1 like. I was like, and even then I was like, it's like a family member maybe. So like, it's not like no one's interested, and there's no hype around this movie. Like I'll look at the hashtag just to see like who's talking about this movie. Even critics are barely talking about it. It's just flying away. And the biggest mistake is why they released in the summer, but they did. It's a mistake that honestly even Tom Cruise and the folks at Paramount released that movie, right? With Mission Impossible, because why did that movie release 1 week before Oppenheimer and Barbie? Now it has no legs. Like that should have been like a late August movie, and then Haunted Mansion should have been an October movie. I guess they're all scared of the strike, and that's why they had to release it early. Like I don't know, but I didn't like the release schedule, and you cannot beat this. Like this is 1 in a million. Like you're not gonna beat that. Either way.
I feel like the last point, the movie's legs will be on Disney Plus. It was made for Disney Plus. This is like one of those movies that's made for it.
Why did it come out? Why did it get a theatrical release if it was a streaming?
I don't know. I understand. It's made for streaming. Release it on the holidays, and you'll be good.
Either way, if you're again, it's just our spoiler talk, a spoiler-free review, but it's not out yet. If you guys want to watch it, feel free to watch it. It's coming out in theaters, or you can wait on Disney Plus. But if you want to watch this one, it's already on Disney Plus. It's up to you. Either way. That's pretty much, I think, all of our topics for today. What do you guys think about Barbie and Oppenheimer? Did Barbenheimer save cinema? Let us know in the comments below and join the debate. From myself, from Zion, and from Samir, we're the Faruqi Bros, and we'll see you next time. Peace out.